Hey everybody, 𝐁𝐨𝐿𝐴 here, and I'm back. I was gone for a month again, roughly. Put out a short a couple of weeks ago that I'd actually recorded a little while back, but things have been so busy I haven't been able to post on YouTube. I've been teaching a lot of private lessons and having a whole lot of fun with that and getting ready for my next class, Mando Licks That Changed Everything, that starts February 26th. It's another one of those 3-session courses, and I'm actually going to teach that lick in the course. If you know what that's from, I know some of you do, then drop it in the comments. What is that lick from? It's something you've probably heard, a bunch of you out there. Anyway, I've been busy with that and studying chess like crazy. I hit a new all-time high rating, what they call a peak rating, of 1275 USCF, which may sound fancy. It's 1275 US Chess Federation. It's not as fancy. It's really kind of like being able to play Cherokee Shuffle up to speed and with all the chords and not mess up. It's a lot like that, but still a big deal to me. This means something to almost nobody that's watching this. So anybody who understands what I'm talking about, say hi in the comments. Both of you, say hi in the comments. We'll be friends forever. So class coming up. I'm getting better at chess. I changed my strings in under 13 minutes, all 8 strings. Very proud of this. Got some new octachords on here. And now I'm going to show you something that I end up showing pretty much every student who takes private lessons from me. It's something I learned when I was in college, and the music theory I took there really changed the way I approach playing music. Now, before you click out to another video because I said music theory, don't worry, this isn't going to be super complicated. You don't actually have to know music theory to do this, and I'll tell you at the end of the video what you need to know to do this and not need music theory. So what we're going to do is called chord shoelaces. A bunch of you were watching because you saw that picture of me holding up the shoes. What are chord shoelaces? Well, this is something I learned in college, and I named it chord shoelaces. As we go, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, chord shoelaces is a technique for you to identify what chord you're playing and how it can be used. So first, I'm going to quiz you. What is this chord called? I'm going to give you what I'm playing here. I'm playing 4 on the G, 2 on the D, 5 on the A, and I'm actually muting the E string like that. So if you're a notes person, that's B, E, and D. And then still mute. So what chord is this? Now before anybody goes fighting over this in the comments, there's more than one right answer. And that's why we're talking about chord shoelaces in this video. So this chord comes up in a bunch of things in various keys, and it can mean more than one thing. So drop your answer in the comments. Feel free to pause and think about this and then come back to the video. And when you're back, which is maybe now, I'll go ahead and spoil it. This chord can be called a couple of different things. I learned it originally as a G6, which this is a little odd because you didn't hear me say G earlier, did you? B, E, and D. None of these are G, but a chord can be rootless. A chord can have no root in it. When we play mandolin especially, we often don't have a root, and that's okay. It's all about what is a chord acting like. And depending on the context I put this in, it may be acting like a G6 chord. And if you don't understand 6 chords, that's okay, don't worry about it. I have promised some people some follow-ups on the swing and blues chords. And when we do a swing chord follow-up, this chord will be in it. So don't worry if you don't know what a G6 means. The context I'm using here is going to be Lady Be Good. So I'm in the key of G here. And this chord is acting like the root, so it's a G6 chord. So I'm in the key of G, and this chord is acting like the root. It's acting like we're back home. It's really important to develop an ear for hearing when are you at the home base chord so you can identify what key you're in. However, this chord could also be used somewhere else. Some EMD, or it could be in Jazzgrass Waltz. It's played in this way as well. A bunch of you know that from my album Plays Well with Others, and a bunch of you know that from the original source, Slim Richie's album Jazzgrass. And A whole bunch of you know it from satellite radio because it got a ton of airplay over a few years on Bluegrass Junction. So thank you to Bluegrass Junction for doing that. Much appreciated. So in this case, in Jazzgrass Waltz or EMD, this chord is acting like an E minor chord. Well, how is that possible? It's technically an E minor 7 here. So how is that possible? A G6 and an E minor 7, how can they be the same chord? How can something that is a G chord of some kind be also an E chord of some kind? And it's all about how it's acting. These two chords are made up of common notes. Now in this case, I'm only playing 3 notes, but we're going to go over this chord as if it was the full 4-note chord. A G6 has 4 notes in it. The G6 is spelled, and this is a term for you to learn, chord spelling. G6 is spelled G, B, D, E. Or for those of you who like numbers, it's 1, 3, 5, 6. And if you do neither of those, just memorize this sound like it's a little melody. That's what a 6 chord sounds like, and this one's a G6 chord. Well, an E minor 7 chord is spelled, there's that term again, I might ask you in a lesson, how is E minor 7 spelled? And you could answer it as E, G, B, D. That's how an E minor 7 chord is spelled. Well, let's look at what they have in common, and this is where Chord Shoelaces comes in. I'm going to give you a tool that is extremely useful for anyone who wants to be able to learn on their own without somebody just always telling them what to do. Now, as you can see, I put both of these chords up right over here. Side by side, we have the G6 chord, that's G, B, D, E, and then we have the E minor 7 chord, that's E, G, B, D. And now it's time for Chord Shoelaces. And this is a visual thing, you'll see why I call it shoelaces. So we're going to look at the notes that are in common between these two chords. Now, as you may have noticed, they're exactly the same chord because I keep saying it, or if you just clicked in at this point, they're exactly the same chord. Let's go ahead and look at how that works. So we're going to take the G's and we're going to draw a line between them and we're going to connect those G notes. Now we're going to take the B notes and we're going to draw a line between those and connect the B notes. Now connect the D notes and finally connect the E notes. And as you can see, in both chords, every note has the same corresponding note in the other chord. This is how we know that these are the same chord. Now this is useful to you for identifying chords, like what chord is this I'm playing? You can write this down. Now I mentioned you don't have to know your note names to do this. You can also write down root, third, and fifth. It's something that may take you a little bit longer, but it's a skill you can develop. If you're not into note names yet, or maybe never will be, that's okay. You can deal with numbers and be okay. If numbers don't make sense, you can still do this by ear. It'll just take a little longer. You figure out what are the notes. And then you try some different chords and figure out what those notes actually are and compare chord to chord. That is the hardest way to do it, but if you're not up on your theory skills or your Nashville number skills, it still can be done. So you can take one chord that you have and figure out what is it? What is this chord? In the context I'm using it in, or in another context, what could this chord be? That's how shoelaces can help you. But you can also do this another way. You can say, I need such and such a chord, so I'm going to write out all of these notes. And then I'm going to look at a note and look at the chords I know that have it and figure out, all right, do I know any chord shapes that have at least 2 of these notes in it? And if that's the case, you can pare that chord shape down to become something that works for you. So let's say you need an E minor 7 chord, and this is the G chord you know. Well, E minor 7 is spelled E, G, B, D, and this chord has in it D, G, D, B. So all we have to do now is draw the chord shoelaces. We can see what is in common, and then we can choose as little as just 2 of the notes. In this case, we're going to choose the 7th fret on the G, that's a D note, and the 5th fret on the D, that's a G note. Both of those are in E minor 7. Now this could take a little while at first if you're starting completely from scratch and you don't have the advantage I have, which is to already know the answer. But the more times you do this, the faster you're going to get, and you're going to be able to do these on the fly. And it's going to help you get better faster because you're going to spend less time practicing and a whole lot less time trying to figure out what the heck is going on when you're learning stuff. If you have questions about this, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I'm happy to answer them. I'll definitely do some follow-ups on this video at some point if you all are interested. Don't forget to sign up for Mando Licks That Changed Everything. It's going to be a class full of all the licks that made a big difference in the world of mandolin, or licks that made a big difference to me personally, helped me get better faster. Now, it's not going to be a ton of stuff you have to learn. It's going to be a repertoire that all goes together, so you can spend a minimal amount of time studying to add a whole bunch of new licks to your stuff. Whether you're in a jam group that you go to regularly, or you play in a band, you can start 2024 with a whole new set of licks so that you sound different than you did last year. You sound different than your friends. You sound unique. And what you play is exciting both for you and the people that listen. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you hated it, you can hit thumbs down. They'll stop showing it to you. If you did like the video, though, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, just like hitting the like button. And it helps you out because you're going to see more stuff like this. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.